Welcome. This is the Arka Talks Podcast, a show where men speak honestly and authentically about their lives, exploring purpose, brotherhood, strength, and healing. Arka Talks exists to share the collective wisdom that lives in our groups. Due to the confidential nature of our men's groups, Arka has been largely an inward-focused organization, but there's a lot of gold that lives in the hearts and the minds of our members. And the time has come for us to share that with the world. So this is us facing outward, bringing the authenticity, the depth, the inspiration that occurs in our circles out into the public. With this show, we want to extend the opportunity to share these conversations with you, and we hope they inspire you. So thanks for tuning in. My name's Ben Goresky, and I'm co-director of the Arka Brotherhood. I'll be one of the hosts on this show, and we'll also have other hosts, such as my co-director, Matt Cook, our founder, Phil T. Misselberger, and other leaders from our organization. This podcast will be a collective effort in the same way that our organization has been built, a grassroots effort. Arka wouldn't be what it is without the contributions of the captains and the members. In this episode, I'll share a bit about Arka, our history, and what we're looking forward to doing with this show. All right, let's start with a brief overview of Arka's history and function. Arka was founded in its most recent iteration in 2017 by Phil T. Misselberger, a four-time author and transpersonal facilitator. At the time, he was a four-time author and transpersonal facilitator. Now he's a multi-time author. Our name for the first few years was the Samurai Brotherhood, a name chosen to give modern men timeless principles to improve their lives. The samurai were a warrior culture worth looking up to, especially for modern men, because of their discipline and because of the way that they lived in balance. Samurai warriors were formidable fighters, but they were also meditators, artists, and they lived by a code called Bushido. In 2021, we changed our name to the Arka Brotherhood to clear up some common misconceptions and misunderstandings people had with the word samurai. That first Samurai Brotherhood group back in 2017 started in Phil Misselberger's apartment and was facilitated by him each week. Group discussions in Arka focus on members speaking honestly and vulnerably about their lives, and not just about surface level details, but going for the deeper truths beneath the superficial. Men listen intently, share when they relate to each other's experience, and they also challenge each other to step up beyond their self-imposed limitations. Accountability for one's words and actions is a core tenet that is important in our groups, and we use a code of conduct as our guide for living called the 14-point code of the conscious warrior. In that first group in Misselberger's apartment, men's lives changed quickly. They started stepping up in their homes, taking on leadership roles, asking for promotions, and reaching new levels in their relationships. As they developed their leadership qualities in the group, those assets were overflowing into their lives. Those men started telling guys around them what was happening, and the results could be seen and felt. So the group grew naturally, until it was too large for Phil's living room. When the time was right, that first squad, by the way, we refer to our groups as squads to signify the tight-knit relationship of our members and the warrior spirit of the samurai. That first squad was split into four, and a few men stood up to become leaders of those four new groups. Phil stepped into a mentorship role with those new captains, and our community was born. Since then, we've grown consistently over the years, primarily by word of mouth and open house events that have been held in each city where we currently have groups. We now have 74 squads at the time of recording here in 2025. We've spread from Vancouver, British Columbia initially into places like Montreal and Toronto in our home country, as well as U.S. cities like Denver, Colorado, Austin, Texas, and Las Vegas, Nevada. In 2019, I founded the first online group as a test to see if we could translate the original in-person experience to an online forum. I pulled together some coaching clients and put an offer out on social media and landed with 9 guys from all over the world in a squad that was called Ronin, a term used to describe the wandering samurai. The word Ronin means someone who does not belong to one place. We thought this term was a fitting throwback to the samurai, considering our members in these groups were in various locations all over the world, with some of them living nomadically. The first Ronin squad was a success, a great success. I captained that first squad for 4 years, and meanwhile, we started more squads. When COVID shut the world down, these online groups grew fast to the point where we now have 16 of them. Our Ronin members are now stepping into captaincy and starting squads in their own cities around the world. We'll dig more into our history in future episodes, but we'll leave it there for now. And next up, I'll share about our traditions and principles, beginning with the meaning of Arka. Our name means sun and ray of light in Sanskrit. It also means the king in Armenian. And in English, it's our reference to the integration of the mature masculine archetypes: the king, the warrior, the magician, and the lover. Next up, some key pieces that are unique to our brotherhood. Men's work as leadership training. We're here to transform the lives of our members by connecting them to their own innate leadership qualities and mature masculine traits. Our members make changes in their lives using our powerful squad containers. They go deep into their own process and do the inner work necessary for real transformation. We found that doing this work with each other as witnesses is really effective. Some of that work includes the excavation and processing of one's past, looking at shadow elements of the self and revealing ourselves to each other in a vulnerable way. We also have specific exercises that challenge and stretch men in various ways. Each exercise has wisdom, teachings, and opportunities for learning within it. Ultimately, the goal is for men to know and be familiar with all aspects of themselves. Each Arka group has a leader who began as a member and through his own dedication to personal growth within his squad and in his life, rose to leadership over time. He earned the respect of the men in his circle and his own captain by leaning into the specific challenges that were revealed to him through the group process. And he made real, tangible changes in his expression and in his life. When men are ready, they take our Arka leadership training, which instills the competency to hold the Arka structure and lead other men in walking the same path. Okay, our stand. Here's our stand. Suffice it to say, we are a stand for the betterment of men. We believe that men gathering in an intentional container for the purpose of personal growth is a good thing for humanity. There's a special energy that men give to each other when directed in the right way, which creates an upward momentum in their lives. This is why we're a men's only container, to create and stoke that momentum. All right, I'll speak for a minute about our code, the 14-point code. We believe that all men benefit from having a code to live by. Arka has a code that serves this purpose, and we call it the 14-point code of the conscious warrior, which we'll dig into in a future episode. But to give you a snippet of what that looks like, this is important to at least share the importance of this code here. Code 1 is about making your word good. And code 2 is know thyself. Code 3 is train your body. The 14-point code is simultaneously a guide for inner transformation, as well as a code for relating to the world in an honorable, disciplined, and integral way. All right, on brotherhood. A beneficial byproduct of these containers is the deep personal connections that are forged through doing this work together. We're not a social club. That is to say, we don't exist for men to make friends. But naturally, that is something that occurs when men spend enough time in our circles. Arka members often report that after the first year, they feel closer to the men in their squad than any other men in their lives. This sense of home, belonging, safety, and comfort with one another is something we believe all men need. The desire to be part of something purposeful, powerful, and strong lives in the bones of every man. On diversity. We are an inclusive and diverse organization. Our members span the full spectrum of age, sexual orientation, race, religion, ability, and political orientation. Our standards for admission are based on a man's willingness and ability to commit and live up to our weekly meeting structure and the guidelines within our groups. You can read more about this on our website. All right, I'll speak for a minute on what we don't stand for. There are a few things that Arka is not focused on, which are worth mentioning. If we're talking about what we are, we need to mention what we're not. Number one, religion. We are not a religious organization, and we are not affiliated with any religion. Our founder and our leaders have their own spiritual and sometimes religious leanings and allegiances, but we encourage men to find their own sense of connection to something greater than themselves, whether it be nature itself or the unseen world. There is a spiritual element that comes through for each member and each squad naturally over time, and we honor that emergence without pushing any specific ideology. We look to many belief systems or traditions for their value and allow our members to align with what works for them. We welcome men from all religious backgrounds. On politics and public opinion, we are not a political organization and will never make political statements. In every group, we have men from every political leaning, and we practice understanding and respecting one another's views. We are a member-focused organization, and our work is entirely focused on the men in our circles. We don't share opinions on men's issues at large or on specific men who are not in our organization. These days, organizations are often called upon to make statements supporting or condemning various issues, whether it be wars, public trials, or the actions of politicians. This is not our function, so we focus on the growth and transformation of our members. Teachers versus teachings. Arka doesn't endorse other teachers, past or present, from outside our organization. Internally, we have a policy of separating the teacher from the teachings. Over the years, we've seen countless examples of teachers, leaders, and gurus behaving in ways that are out of integrity with their own teachings. But the teachings will speak for themselves and show their value, or lack thereof, over time. We embrace theories, teachings, and processes that bring us value while honoring where they came from, wherever we can, without getting on board with the behavior of those that brought them to light. Regarding Arka's code of conduct as an organization, we have our own 14-point code for how our squads operate relating to each other and the outside world, which we may share later. But I think the main thing to get into here is, what do we want to do with this show? With this podcast, we want to share the impact of the work we do with the wider world. We want to get as close as we can to bringing you right into one of our circles, to hear and to feel what we get to experience on a weekly basis. As a members-only, men's-only organization, we've always had a lot of people who are curious about us, especially the hundreds of romantic partners of our members. This is our chance to bring all of the curious cats into our living room and share some of that brotherhood medicine with the world, especially the women who have been asking to be a fly on the wall in one of our groups. On this show, you'll also hear inspiring stories of transformation from men in our midst, and we'll have some incredible stories to share with you. I know it. I'm sure of it. You'll cry, you'll laugh, and your outlook on men in general might change a little or a lot. Finally, we also want to use this show to share our values and teachings more widely. Until now, much of the value Arka brings has been locked up in our squads. We don't have proprietary, copyrighted teachings that we're trying to keep behind a paywall. Our values, codes, and teachings have been distilled from dozens, if not hundreds, of sources, ancient and modern. And we want to share them with you. A few disclaimers before we finish this intro episode. Number one, not all things said in this podcast will be representative of our organization. As always, each member has their own political, religious, and ethical leanings that may not align with our official position. Things will be said in the upcoming episodes that are the opinion or view of the man who's speaking, not Arka itself. Please keep that in mind while listening to our show. Our organization is a work in progress. Our members themselves can be seen as works in progress. For most of us, to look back at the things we said or ways we represented ourselves 10 or 20 years ago can bring some embarrassment or self-judgment about how our younger, more naive or egotistical self was speaking. Nevertheless, we are going to courageously move forward in having these conversations that will be here on the internet basically forever. So please extend some grace to our hosts and guests, and remember that not everything you hear on this show is representative of Arka itself. Wrapping things up for this episode, I'm excited. I'm excited to be launching this show, and I'm really looking forward to the conversations we're going to share with you in the coming weeks. If you're a man who's just learning about men's work or not in one of our squads, we're excited to share some of the values, stories, and wisdom that lives in our brotherhood. We hope to empower you, to inspire you, to make changes in your life, positive changes in your life, and lean into constructive relationships with other men. If you're an Arka member, we're stoked to connect with you and to connect you with some of the other leaders in our organization and some of the other members in our organization who have awesome stories, inspiring stories to share. We also want to connect you to our founder and elder, Phil Misselberger, on a more regular basis so you can soak up his teachings and his wisdom. We're so lucky to have a teacher like Phil in our midst, and we owe the existence of this brotherhood to his efforts. And last but not least, if you're a woman who wants to know more about how to support men and to learn about the work men do in these closed containers, we're thrilled to have you listening in and sharing these conversations. A great number of our members throughout the years have come from referrals from women. So thank you for joining us on this journey. So if you're in, hit the subscribe button and join us. The fire is lit and we're just getting started. All right. See you in episode 2. Ho!